Hi there. In a previous video, I talked about color palette management in Microsoft 365. I'll try and put a link to that video up there somewhere. I'd like to follow on from that by talking about font management in MS365 using font styles. Now I'm going to cover that in Excel and in Word and briefly in PowerPoint, because in PowerPoint the font styles are part of the slide master and that requires a whole video on its own. So let's get started. There are some do's and don'ts to consider with font styles before we start looking at the individual applications. Although font styles can be created with any font installed on your computer, those fonts may not be on other computers, so your document may not display correctly. In Word and PowerPoint, you can embed fonts in your documents through the Save tab in the Options dialog. Be aware though that not all fonts can be embedded because their license may prevent it. If you want to use fonts in your documents that don't come installed with MS365 as standard, I'd recommend looking at sites such as Google Fonts, Open Foundry, and the League of Movable Type, which all specialize in fonts that are free for commercial use. Even by embedding fonts or using the safe fonts that come pre-installed with MS365, be aware that previous versions of Office may have a different font base, so your document may not look exactly as intended. This is particularly important with Excel, which doesn't allow the embedding of fonts, so you'll have to stick to a list of safe pre-installed fonts. So to summarize, do try and stick to the so-called safe list of pre-installed fonts where possible. Don't embed and distribute fonts that you don't have the license to distribute. And don't deviate at all from the list of standard safe fonts in Excel because you just cannot embed them in your documents. I have a blank document open in Excel and you can see that the font being used is Aptos Narrow. If I click the drop down, you can see it's classed as the body font for this document, and then Aptos Display is the headings. Now these relate to the style that's being used in the theme here. So if I put some text in, heading and body, and we use the heading font for the heading, let's increase the size a little bit, and we'll leave Aptos Narrow as the body. Now, if we go into the Page Layout tab, you can see in the Themes section on the left-hand side here, we have a fonts drop-down. So currently we're using the Office standard style, which is Aptos Display and Aptos Narrow. If I change that to another one, Times New Roman and Arial, you can see that text that was formatted with the heading font and body font have changed accordingly. So that heading is now in Times New Roman and the body is in Arial. I'll just switch that back. Now, if I put heading version 2 in and format that with the same font as the heading, Aptos Display, but not using the headings font, just find Aptos Display. What we should find is, because we haven't used the heading font from within the theme, even though it's the same font, when we come to change the fonts, going back to this one again, you can see the original heading is in Times New Roman, the body is in Arial, but this heading here is still in Aptos Display. So when you're formulating documents that you want a consistent style for and the ability to change that style for templates, for example, if you were creating templates to reuse for different clients, make sure you stick to the heading and body fonts. That way you can very quickly change the look of the whole document simply by changing the font drop down here. So we have all these standard layouts. How do we create our own? So let's just get rid of that. So under fonts, we go to customize. So our heading font, let's use something that stands out. Algerian stands out as different. And then for the body, we'll use body extra light, and we'll call this Best font style. You can see that that's now applied those fonts to the heading and the body style. And the style we've just set up appears in the custom section at the top. So we can very quickly drop that back to the office style or use our new style. Just quickly flip between the two. For Word, the process is very similar. So I've set here heading text using Aptos display heading, body using Aptos body. Instead of the page layout tab, we find our font options on the design tab. So over to the right here, we have our fonts. And because font styles are used across the MS365 platform, the font style we set up in Excel is available here in Word. So if I select that, we can see it's changed those fonts accordingly. And just flip it back to that, so you can see that it's easy to change. Again, to be able to apply a consistent look across your documents or to be able to quickly change fonts for different templates, make sure you stick to the heading and the body fonts within the document. Creating your new font style in Word is just as easy as it is in Excel. It's exactly the same method. So as I said at the start of the video, I won't be covering PowerPoint in any great detail here because I plan to cover the whole PowerPoint slide masters and styles in a separate video at a later date. But as you can see, if you go into your View tab and go to Slide Master, you can see the fonts option here. So you can change your fonts within your slide master. And again, exactly the same way as with Excel and Word, you can create new theme fonts here. Here I've opened up the custom XML file for the font style that was created earlier in the video and reformatted it just so it's a bit more legible as to what's going on. I advise you go back and watch the video on color palettes to understand where these files are stored and how they are distributed to other users if required, though I will put some further information in the description to this video. So, armed with the information and the list of do's and don'ts from this video, I'm sure in no time you'll be known in the office as the font master. Yes, I'm exaggerating, but at least you'll have a head start over most of your colleagues in terms of being able to create consistent looking documents and flexible templates. Thanks for watching.